Report on the former Countryfile presenter Miriam O'Reilly, who's won her age discrimination case against the BBC, who were also found guilty of victimisation. An employment tribunal upheld her claim that she'd been forced off the show to make way for younger presenters. The BBC has since apologised to Ms O'Reilly and said they would like to discuss working with her again in the future. Well, joining us now...
I felt that after over 20 years with the BBC, over 25 years with the BBC, that I deserved to be judged on my ability and not on my appearance. And I don't think having wrinkles is offensive, you know. We all get old.
So to the former Crimewatch presenter, Nick Ross. He's here with us outside a pub, I think, somewhere. Nick, thank you very much for joining us.
That's right. Good place to be.
Were you a victim of ageism?
Well, I don't know. And I don't know that Miriam was, despite what the tribunal said. I think usually these things are much more complicated than that. When producers want to change a programme, there are a limited number of things that they can change, John. As you know, you can change the title sequence, you can change the music, you can change the set, and ultimately you want to change presenters. And that's why most of us are Schedule D. We're freelancers. It is not a job for life. It's a privilege. It's a privilege that I had with the BBC for almost 40 years, 35 years certainly, 23 on Crimewatch. Like Miriam, I was bitterly disappointed when they said they wanted to move me on to another programme. And in the end, I just had to accept it. And I think we all need to accept that sort of thing. You have to move the furniture. It is showbiz, after all. Even if things like news and Crimewatch are showbiz with a straight face, it is nonetheless that sort of area.
But were you treated better, perhaps, than a woman of your age would have been?
Well, I certainly didn't feel so at the time. In fact, maybe, John, I should now go back to the BBC and put in a retrospective claim. I don't know. I think it is undoubtedly tougher for women as they get older. I have to say, I think it might be easier for some women on looks when they are younger, and I don't hear people complaining about that. There are not many mingers that make it onto TV in their 20s and their 30s. But the fact is, it is tougher for women, of course it is. I think that's a factor not just of television, though generally. Women recognise and are concerned about getting older or looking older much more than men are. It's a fact of life. Women tend to be still attracted to older men, whereas older men tend to be attracted to younger women. I'm not quite sure how television is supposed to change that equation.
Well, I mean, perhaps after this judgment, even though you're not sure that it's entirely right, perhaps after this judgment you should be looking to a comeback.
Well, absolutely. I have to say the BBC were extraordinarily gracious, and I say that I'm completely independent now. We've got no reason to sing the BBC's praises. And it is difficult. I mean, I'm not saying that the judgment's entirely wrong, and I certainly don't want to rain on Miriam's parade, and good for her for progressing this. She was obviously very, very hurt by this. But it does change relationships a huge amount. The whole point of people front of camera, almost all of us are freelance. It is not a job for life. It is, as I say, something of a privilege.
But do you meet people in the pub, for example, behind you, perhaps of the same age, who feel frustrated that they don't see enough people of their own age on the telly?
They might say so, but when you look at the sort of magazines, the pictures on the magazines that people read of whatever age, we all tend to be attracted to younger faces. It is a fact of life. But there's another thing, John. If you're looking for a replacement for somebody as superb as you on television, the fact is you're going to find new people in their 20s or their 30s. It's very unlikely you're going to find someone in their 50s and 60s you've never heard of before. It is a natural fact that new talent tends to be younger.
Well, Nick, I don't want to sound complacent, but I'm 4 weeks younger than you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot.